tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. The time is 9:28 Central African Time. The name of the show is News and Views, and the name of the station is Salam Media, your humanitarian journalism portal. We're going to be switching gears now, I think, to what is a bold move of defiance and solidarity. The Freedom Flotilla is preparing to set sail once again. This is weeks after Israeli forces intercepted and abducted the crew of the Madleen in international waters. I think it was a crazy time. All of us were following it on social media. And this time, the mission is aboard the Handala, carrying vital supplies like food and medicine, and a powerful political message that is focused on the children of Gaza who continue to suffer under a brutal blockade and siege. Thousands of innocent children have been killed or injured, and nearly 1 million displaced are living amidst hunger, disease, and trauma that few can imagine. Joining us now from the Freedom Flotilla Coalition Steering Committee is Yasemin Acar, who will shed light on the upcoming mission, the risks involved, and just the wider significance of this courageous effort. Yasemin, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think we can begin right there. If you can just tell us about the mission of the Handala, how it builds on the legacy of the Madleen, one I think the whole world knows about very, very well by now, and just the previous other flotillas that have tried to make their way to Gaza to spread the message, number one, but most importantly, to try and deliver much needed aid to the people of Palestine amid this blockade.
Yes, so, the Handala is 37th ship. We've been doing these missions since 2008, since the Zionist entity imposed its blockade on Gaza in 2007. We've managed to get in 5 boats in 2008, and unfortunately after that, the Israelis have, not allowed us to get in. They would intercept us and steal our boats and imprison the activists. And in 2010, there was even an attack which claimed the lives of 10 activists. And on May 2nd, we were going to set sail. Actually, that was a 36th ship in the name of Conscience. And this was attacked right in Malta, in European territory. A drone from Israel had left and came into Maltese airspace, and then during midnight, they released 2 bombs onto the front of the Conscience ship, risking the lives of 16 people once again. Luckily, nothing happened. Within 24 hours later, we decided that we would go with the Madleen. I was a part of the Madleen. We sailed for 8 days, and on day 8, we were intercepted. Before the interception, we were attacked by a quadcopter, releasing some kind of chemical onto us. We were activists on the Madleen. And after that, the interception took place, and we were brought to Ashdod, and we were told that we entered Israel illegally, which is not true. They have kidnapped us in international waters, 20 hours away from Ashdod, because we had to travel with the Madleen for 20 hours with the IOF on board until we reached Ashdod. So, and everyone else of the world could see, it was clear on our tracker that we were in international waters delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza. We were nowhere close to the Zionist entity or had planned to go there. After that, we were jailed for 4 days, and then after 4th, we were released. And 3 of our comrades, they were still in jail since Israel had attacked Iran after our release, basically. And because all the airports were closed, 3 of our friends and comrades, they had to stay for longer periods of time and had to leave Zionist entity by land into Jordan, and then take from there a flight.
I think a very, very, gruesome and traumatic scene that you painting there when it comes to the Madleen and what you guys face at that moment. But just drawing from that experience, the experience of the Madleen, what kind of risk do the handler's crew face as they set sail, and how prepared are you guys for potential interference, as we've seen countless and countless of times coming from this apartheid pariah state regime?
Yeah, I mean, the risks are always there. I mean, we are looking at the Zionists, and not just in Israel, but around the world, the impunity, especially the Israelis enjoy since so many years. I mean, we're not talking about only this genocide, but we're talking about of almost 80 years ethnic cleansing, apartheid, colonialism, oppression, and finally this live stream genocide. But the genocide was always there. They were genociding and slowly. So, and they were doing this with the impunity of the international community. And if the international community stayed silent in the face of so many Palestinians being killed, and even in the last years for us, for the world to see, then we understand that there's nothing that Israel is not willing to do, and the international community is not willing to ignore. So the risks are very high, especially after the Madleen. We saw them, we knew what they were capable of, and we knew that the only reason they could kill us was because of that we had a strong media strategy and that we had all eyes of the world on the Madleen. And this was the only reason that they couldn't kill us. And of course, there was someone like Greta Thunberg. She's someone who symbolizes um, the climate justice movement. So they were actually very upset about the fact that they probably could not hurt us. But that doesn't mean that they won't do this with these activists. They bombed us in May. They killed 10 people in 2010. And most importantly, they're killing babies, in the womb of their mothers because they claim that these babies are terrorists. So these killer machines are basically and unfortunately, capable of doing anything. But however, this time we are 18 people. So last time we were 12, now we're 18, and we are taking measures. But again, there aren't enough measures that one can take in the face of this brutality, this inhumanity. But that won't stop us because we did say we will come back. We promised to the Palestinians in Gaza that we will come back, and this is exactly what we're doing. We're keeping our promise, and we are going back not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. We do not know the outcome. And we cannot think of the outcome in the face of millions of people on the brink of starvation.
No, definitely. And I think it's important that you mentioned this continued brutal killing of children in Gaza and babies. The situation has, I think, deteriorated quite dramatically, especially for children. What motivated the Freedom Flotilla Coalition to place the needs of children at the heart of this mission, for it to be so specific to the young babies and children, I think, who continue to face unimaginable trauma from this genocide?
The Handela was supposed to sail last year. I was on the Handela. We attempted 3 times. It didn't work. We had technical issues. And of course, then we had bureaucratic issues because the bureaucratic warfare on us is quite huge and heavy. So, and it was this mission was always, the Handela was always meant for children. I mean, the cartoon Handela is a 10-year-old boy, turned its back to the world saying, I will not turn back around until Palestine is free, symbolizing the injustice, perspective of a child. That is why we named it after Handala. And because we, meant to reach the children and tell the world that while you're looking away, children, like I said, unborn children are being murdered while they're in the womb of their mothers. We've seen many pictures when mothers were bombed and the fetus just exploded out from the belly. I'm sorry for these explicit or for
Mm,
these for these pictures that I'm painting in the heads of the listeners, but this is the reality of things. And children in Gaza, during war, I mean, war should not happen at at all. But during war, women and children are specifically and specially protected. But what Israel is doing, the world has not seen anything like it. We like to always refer back to the Holocaust. This is what the world constantly does, referring back to the Holocaust. There are many reasons for this, why they always use the Holocaust to paint this, you know, that this was a horrific crime. Yes, indeed, it was a horrific crime committed by the Nazis, but it wasn't the only worst crime. It wasn't the only horrific crimes because there are constantly crimes committed on the African continent, in the
mm,
Middle East. They're just not seen as crimes because it is not white people's lives, and this is exactly why Palestine should be a matter of every and each individual on this planet Earth, because just because they're Palestinian, just because they're Arab, doesn't mean that these children are less worth. They need safety like every other child on this planet Earth, and we need to fight for this because the target children. I mean, these are the next generations. What
mm.
what world are we going to leave behind if our next generations are the target?
Definitely, very, very important to note. Yasmin, I want to focus on the political and humanitarian dimensions at play here. Critics often dismiss flotilla missions as symbolic or politically motivated rather than being genuinely humanitarian. How do you respond to these criticisms?
We're talking about um, 2 million, over 2 million people. Probably less than 2 million because the real numbers of the people killed in Gaza is unknown. But let's say up to 2 million people in Gaza right now who are at the brink of starvation. It is impossible for one mission, two missions, three missions to cover all of this. The question would be, why are we living in a world where people in the 21st century, while we have social media, you know, why are people being starved? How is this possible? How is this possible that the world remains silent and that that no aid gets in? For 2 years, we've been seeing aid trucks on the Rafah border, just being stopped, not being able to enter because the narrative was always the same, the propaganda was always the same, as usual. They used Hamas for everything. They used Hamas, and they're still using this narrative to starve people. And so the question should rather be directed at our governments that allow these things to happen. Yes,
Mm,
our mission or the aid that we do carry on our very small boats is maybe symbolic and won't ever be able to feed the almost 2 million citizens in Gaza. But we are carrying a message. We are saying that we will not stay silent, and someone has to make the first step. And why do we have to risk our lives when, in fact, our governments are supposed to do this? When, in fact, our governments are supposed to send this aid or hold Israel accountable, sanction Israel? None of this has happened. So, and yes, we are the civil society, and we said we will take this no more. We will sail. And as I said earlier, the Freedom Flotilla has been doing this since 2008. So imagine, since 2008, the Freedom Flotilla has been setting sail and world. Look, there is an illegal, inhumane siege. We must all look to Gaza, and we must do something about this. No one
mm,
has listened. And then the genocide started, and they put a siege on top of a siege. And again, the world is silent. But for us, mean that we will stop. We will continue. And with a Madleen, even if it was symbolic, the world could clearly see that there is something wrong, and that we must collectively look at the direction of Gaza, and that we must collectively get up, not only 12 people, but it should be millions of people around the world. If our governments are not doing anything, we are the ones voting them into power. So we can do something. There is a lot of power with the people, and we've
Mm,
seen it in South Africa. So we can make it happen, and we must do it. We cannot stop, even if it's just a drop in the ocean. We should carry there whatever we have. We should do whatever we can, even if it's little, because it is a political statement. Every
mm.
action is a political statement.
No, definitely. Just before I let you go, are there plans for further flotilla missions after the Handala? And also, if you can just give us the status of the Handala right now. Has it set sail? Where is it? Where can people follow it? The same way people did with the Madleen, where there was so much attention and eyes and ears of the world focused on it, which I think did a brilliant job when it comes to conscientizing those that might not really know and understand the kind of regime that is being dealt with here. The IDF, the pariah Israeli government in itself. I think because of the Madeleine, it was in full view of the world. It was the number one trending topics for days, and it was very, very important. How do we make sure that with the Handala we have the same kind of impact as we had with the Madeleine?
Yes, thank you so much for this question, because it's a very important question. One was looking at the Madleen. We have to do the same again for the 18 people on board carrying the humanitarian aid to Gaza and trying to open up the People's Humanitarian Sea Corridor. We have again we are partnering with forensic architecture, which we have done in our previous missions as well. And there is a tracker on our website that everyone can clearly track the Handala. The Handala set sail 2 days ago from Syracuse to Gallipoli. They're going to make a stop in Gallipoli and to fuel the Handala, to take fuel, and then from there finally leave on the 18th of July to Gaza. Um, and again, we will have exactly like the Madleen on our social media channels, on Telegram. We will be on YouTube. We will have videos. We will have interviews. So keep your eyes on these people. Keep your eyes on the mission and ask for a safe passage. We have 8 different nationalities this time on the Handala. Predominantly, we have United participants from the United States of America, which is the largest weapons supplier and weapons supplier to this genocide. Um, and yeah, keep your eyes on Gaza, but keep your eyes on the Handala, so that we can tell the world, that we can deliver this message, that this genocide needs to stop, the occupation needs to stop, and that the starvation needs to stop. But we must. A lot of people are asking, let aid in, let the starvation end. This is, we have to look at the bigger picture. It's an occupation. The occupation needs to stop. If it doesn't stop, this will happen over and over again.
No, Yasmin, thank you so much. I think it's very, very important to mention, and the work that you guys are doing is quite brilliant. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on the Madeleine. I think there's a website that you guys have. We'll definitely be putting it up on our screens where people can go out and visit, and track the handler and where you guys, are making your way. But yeah, really, really important. Thank you so much for joining us, and looking forward to chat to you again just to get the progress on the handler and
Yeah,
the impact that it will
yeah.
make.
I actually wanted to get something in, because you asked that
Mhm.
question. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot to answer that question.
Sure.
Will there be new missions?
Yes.
We've seen after the Madleen, there was the Global March to Gaza and the Sumut convoy. Um, all of these initiatives, they are still active, and they are that there will be more ships coming. It's just a matter of time, and The world will see. We are going to become more. It's a global uprising. That this is not just a mission, it has become a movement. And the Zionist entity has to be ready for this, because we will not stay silent. Millions around the world are going on the Handala, but then hopefully soon on more ships.
Mm, no, definitely. Very, very important to note. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yasmin, really, really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely be catching up with you guys in the not so distant future.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. And yeah, if you want to get involved, if you want to follow the handler, you can head over to the Freedom Flotilla website. It's www.freedomflotilla.org. There's also a link button there if you want to track the handler in real time, watch where it is, get updates from the crew that is on board. The handler is also right there. It's a button on their website, www.freedomflotilla.org. I think very, very important work that is being done. I think the attention that the Madleen has brought to the world is very, very important. I think the Freedom Flotilla Coalition is reminding us that beyond, the headlines and politics of this genocide, there are actual real lives that are at stake, especially the children of Gaza, young people, man, who are experiencing, I think, a trauma most of us, in this side of the world, probably can't even fathom. And you have 2 year olds, 3 year olds, 6 year olds having day to day, having to watch people around them die, having to watch drones hover above their heads and dropping bombs, and all kinds of explosive at such a young age. It's if you're not disturbed by that as a human being, no matter your color, your creed, your religion, if you're not disturbed by baby, someone that's barely fully developed as a human being that needs all the love and care, attention that is available, having to duck bullets and bombs. So yeah, I think as Handala prepares to sail into contested waters at this point, I think it carries not only essential supplies, although it's little. I think it's more about the messaging than it is about the aid. I think the aid to be let into Gaza, I think, requires the work of governments, requires the work of the United Nations, and the only thing that the people at the Freedom Flotilla can do is to carry the messaging, the messaging of resilience, the messaging of solidarity and resistance against this siege and this silence on the genocide in Gaza. And it's all happening in a world that too often is marked by indifference. And missions like this, I think, challenges us all to remember the human faces behind the conflict and the urgent need for justice and humanitarian relief. And as I mentioned, we'll be following the flotilla's journey quite closely here on News and Views. And yeah, if you want any kind of updates, please follow us quite close on our various social media pages, and we'll definitely be getting in touch with the crew that is on board the Handala, and some members of the Freedom Flotilla coalition that have made sure that this return to sea of the Handala does happen. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.